Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reedy with Future Pastimes. I'm a game designer on Dune-themed board games, among other things, and we are reading Dune. So we are now on to the next chapter where we finally find ourselves on Arrakis. Now this chapter starts with an excerpt from Analysis, the Arrakeen Crisis by the Princess Irulan. This one has a little extra notation that it was from private circulation and has a Bene Gesserit file number. The excerpt is about Lady Jessica in terms of her interaction with the Missionaria Protectiva and their implant legends, which is something that's going to come up in this chapter. And the excerpt ends with the mention that Lady Jessica's latent abilities were grossly underestimated. And we're going to see some of her abilities at work in this chapter. So, as I said, they have finally arrived on Arrakis, and Jessica is in a hall with a lot of boxes that have been delivered there. And she's opening them and doing some unpacking, although she's not doing this all by herself. But in this moment, she starts off alone, and she has noticed that there's a crate that has the portrait of the Duke's father, Paulus Atreides, dressed as a matador, and he was killed by a Seleucid bull, and they have the bull's head as well in another box with the old Duke's blood still on the horns. And in this chapter, Lady Jessica has interactions with two people. One is the Duke Leto himself, and they talk about just how busy everything is, and the Duke is running around like a wild man trying to get stuff ready. And they have a little discussion. It's almost a little bit of a tiff as the Duke explains he wants the portrait and the bull's head put in the dining hall, which Lady Jessica is not keen on, but he overrules her. So he's like, yeah, you're going to do it. And she's not happy about it. And I think it's because having this reminder about the Duke and his father was the Duke and was killed, and having that kind of hanging over them while they're eating, it's a little bit weird. But the Duke has his reasons for why he wants that reminder, and Lady Jessica would rather it be something else. And they have some other discussions just about, being an Arrakeen, and it's not the gaudy city that the Harkonnens built, off to the west and north, Carthage. It's more of a garrison city that grew up and is a little bit, it's a little bit bigger than just a garrison town now, but still compared to Carthage. But the real meat of this chapter is when the housekeeper comes in. So this is the shout-out Mapes, and she is an old Fremen woman, and they have a very interesting interaction. And Jessica figures out that Mapes has actually come there to test her, and all this is because of the Missionaria Protectiva. And what that is it's this whole kind of long-term project that the Bene Gesserit have, where they go to different worlds throughout the Imperium, and they start sowing the seeds of mythology that they know that they can later on leverage to control a populace or to influence them. There's, I'm sure, a litany of things that the Missionaria is trying to do with this particular project that they've done. But one of the things that they've done here on Arrakis is this whole legend of a Bene Gesserit woman whose son is going to be a sort of messiah figure for the Fremen. And that's going to play out in a lot of chapters in this book, but here's where we're starting to really see that. So it's the seeds of that storyline that is coming out in this chapter. And it was hinted at earlier by the Reverend Mother Mohayim, where we've done what we can, and the Missionaria has been at work on Arrakis. So she has hinted at that to Jessica to let her know that it may be a tool that she can leverage. And here we're seeing it in action. So Mapes is, has been cleared by Thufir Hawat to be a member of the household as a servant, and she's reporting in, but what she's really there is she knows that Lady Jessica is a Bene Gesserit, and she's trying to figure out, is this that prophecy come to life? And so they have this conversation where Jessica realizes that she's being tested, and so she's using her keen Bene Gesserit observation skills to try to navigate through this conversation. And one of the things that she notices is that Mapes is armed. She has hidden a weapon on herself. And so Mapes has to, she reveals it, and she's like, well, this was meant to be a gift if you're the one. And Jessica's like, or to kill me if I'm not the one, is what she understands the rest of that to be. And the weapon is a crysknife, and this is a sacred weapon of the Fremen people. And she shows it to her, and she asks Lady Jessica if she knows what it is. So Lady Jessica is searching through her memory and through her understanding of the local languages, which she is familiar with. She understands a lot of the ancient languages, and she knows that the word for knife is actually death maker. And she starts to say maker of death, but she only gets as far as maker when Mapes suddenly has this, she's just overwhelmed, and she cries out. Let's see how she describes it. Here we go. Yes, she says, a sound of both grief and elation. And what has happened is that the fact that Lady Jessica understands that this is part of a maker is what overwhelms Mapes. But Jessica doesn't actually know that, and she's not even sure what a maker is. And we're not sure yet either at this point. But what we're going to find out later on, and maybe I shouldn't even say it. I won't. I won't even say what it is. If those of you who know, you know, but those of you who don't, you're reading along. That is going to come into play later on for sure. And so she basically passes the test, and Mapes is starting to think, maybe this is the real deal. And so she presents the crysknife to Lady Jessica, and Lady Jessica is like, well, that you've drawn the knife, but it is unbloodied. And which is curious, because that is definitely a Fremen tradition. When they pull out the crysknife, if they're not using it, they draw their own blood with it, which does happen in the movie. I thought that was interesting, nice little detail in the scene towards the end when they find Paul and Lady Jessica, and they've managed to not have their water taken by the tribe. It's right before Jamis invokes the Amtal, but they all cut the backs of their hands, and then they put their knives away, and then I thought that was a neat little thing that didn't really show up in the other adaptations of Dune, I thought that was pretty cool. So Jessica has Mapes hang up the bullhead and the painting, and she starts to think about what it's going to be like having to interact with the actual Fremen and be on Arrakis. So that was really the gist of this chapter. Again, it really gives us a sense of just how well educated Lady Jessica is on a wide range of subjects, and how she's supposed to employ that knowledge as a Bene Gesserit. We're starting to get a little bit of a sense of their real strength, because it's all very much in the shadows and not out on the table. Their abilities and their strengths. It's a lot of observational stuff, and later, as we'll find, it's a lot about internal control as well. But we'll get a stronger sense of that later on. But we're also getting a sense that there's a lot of religious, stronger religious element to the Fremen culture, and clearly the Missionaria Protectiva has been exploiting it and maybe even a part of it. And so, like I said, this is where we're getting that first step of what that might mean and how that's going to play out. So this chapter is a very important chapter because it's going to feed a lot of what's going to happen later on, as you will see. So that's it for that one. What I will say is, again, this scene has been portrayed in a couple of adaptations, but never quite to the same extent. Linda Hunt played Shout-Out Mapes in the Lynch movie, and she is observing Lady Jessica. There's a little scene where she's kind of watching her, but that scene was really not, the presentation of the knife was not really included in the Lynch adaptation. And the Villeneuve, it is, but there was a little bit more like, the Lady Jessica doesn't cut Mapes with the knife in the Villeneuve adaptation. And there was Lady Jessica had a guard in the movie. There isn't one present here in this scene in the book. Although it was a good opportunity for them to, again, show the sort of hand gesture battle language that the Atreides all have, where they can communicate a lot with just a couple of hand gestures, which is neat, but it wasn't really part of the scene. I guess it's fine to include it in there. But yeah, so that's it for this scene. If you have questions about it, let me know. Let me know your thoughts on it. I like this chapter. It's one of the longest ones in the book so far, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. Action-wise, it doesn't seem like there's a lot happening, but having read through this book many times already, I know that it is setting the stage for a lot of stuff and building up layers that become more clear at the end of the book or the next time that you read the book, which is what I've done. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again soon.